He's the most audacious defendant on the planet. With a casual wave of his hand, he silences all the judges, then calmly hands his lawyer a cup of coffee. But before the judges can send him to jail, Edward suddenly coughs up a huge pool of blood. Even in the hospital, Edward is still as arrogant as ever, yelling at doctors and bickering with the terminally ill man next door. Edward shouts demands for a private room. Yet the hospital only has double rooms, and this rule is one he made himself.
I run hospitals, not health spas. 2 beds to a room, no exceptions.
He tried to make money by preying on others, only to end up screwing himself over. To make Edward even more frustrated, his roommate Carter may not be well off, but his family visits him every single day. When his wife leaves, his son shows up right away. On the flip side, Edward is filthy rich, so rich he could buy half the world, but he still can't escape cancer. Aside from his assistant, not a single family member comes to keep him company. He asks his assistant to bring him 5-star gourmet meals to show off. Carter urges him to eat something lighter. Edward is as stubborn as a mule, keeps shoveling food into his mouth. But his little victory lap doesn't last long. The side effects of chemotherapy hit hard. He throws up violently until he's dizzy and shakes uncontrollably from the pain. Carter isn't faring any better either. When death is staring you down, no one's life is worth more than another's. These 2 elderly men, worlds apart in status and seemingly incompatible in personality, start to bond over their shared fate and become friends. But their peaceful days are short-lived. One day, the doctor delivers the devastating news. Given their conditions, neither of them has more than a year left to live. Edward acts like he couldn't care less on the surface, but as soon as the doctor leaves, he sinks into deep sadness. Carter thought he'd feel a sense of relief knowing his days are numbered, but when the moment actually comes, he can't bring himself to accept it. Early the next morning, Edward finds a crumpled note on the floor. Carter gets flustered, trying to stop him. It turns out to be Carter's bucket list.
Help a complete stranger for the good. Laugh until I cry.
But the second he learned exactly how little time he had left, he lost all desire to do any of it and tossed the note away. To Edward, these goals are nothing but trivial nonsense. So he mocks Carter while grabbing a pen and scribbling a bunch more items onto the list. He earnestly invites Carter to join him in checking off every single item. Why waste away in a hospital bed waiting to die when they can go out, live life to the fullest, and have the time of their lives? Carter is convinced and decides to go fulfill the bucket list with Edward. His wife is totally confused and furious. They end up having a huge fight. How could he skip treatment and refuse to let his family stay by his side? But no matter how much she argues, she can't stop him. It turns out Carter is a mechanic. To support his family of 5, he gave up his dream of becoming a history professor and slaved away for 45 years, covered in grease and sweat. He dedicated his entire life to his loved ones, but fate didn't reward him for his sacrifice. Now, Carter just wants to live for himself, just once. And so, these 2 70-something men ditch their hospital gowns and embark on a round-the-world adventure. First stop, skydiving. Even though he's dying, Carter chickens out at the thought of this extreme challenge. The instructor doesn't hesitate, straps Carter in and jumps. Edward follows right after, screaming his lungs out in exhilaration midair.
I hate your rotten guts!
Their first challenge is a success. Second item on the list, race a sports car. The wealthy Edward buys Carter's favorite Ford Mustang on the spot. They tear around the racetrack, living out a geriatric version of Fast and Furious. Sometimes, happiness for men is that simple. Next, Edward's private jet flies them straight to France. They dine at the most upscale restaurant in town, savoring top-tier caviar. Under the influence of alcohol, Edward finally spills the secret he's been hiding for years. He's been married 4 times and has a daughter, but his daughter fell in love with a total jerk who abused her. When Edward found out, he had the guy deported. His daughter was furious about it, though it destroyed their relationship. They haven't spoken or seen each other in over a decade. Carter writes, "Reconcile with your daughter on the list." But Edward flies off the handle. He snatches the list and crosses the item out immediately. That night, Edward gets a phone call from Carter's wife.
Give him back to me.
Edward realizes he's ruined the last bit of happiness a family could have, and he feels truly sorry. Then he watches as Carter coughs up a massive amount of blood. Maybe it's time to put the bucket list on hold. But Carter refuses to go home. He's given his whole life to his family. All he wants is a little understanding from them in his final days. Edward respects his decision. The two of them head to Africa, where they watch the Great Migration and gaze out at the vast savanna, soaking in the harmony of nature and humanity. Next, they head to the pyramids, soaking in the wisdom of ancient human sages. Carter, as knowledgeable as an encyclopedia, begins sharing legends about death. Edward admits he doesn't believe he'll ever reach heaven, not when his daughter still hasn't forgiven him. Endless sorrow clouds his eyes. Their final stop is the foot of the Himalayas. Carter's last bucket list item is to witness the miracle of the peak. But fate has other plans. A snowstorm hits and no one is allowed to climb, not until next spring at the earliest. For two men with less than 6 months to live, this is a crushing disappointment. Edward urges Carter to go home, refusing to be the reason Carter misses his family's final moments. But Carter stands his ground. With no other choice, Edward decides to resort to a little trickery. In a Hong Kong restaurant, a beautiful woman approaches Carter and strikes up a conversation. To his surprise, she's even more knowledgeable than he is, and he finds himself drawn to her. She's direct, handing him her room number. But after a moment of hesitation, Carter declines. He thinks of his wife. After 45 years of marriage, romance might have faded, but her side is still where he belongs. The two cut their trip short and fly home immediately. The car pulls up at his daughter's door. Edward hasn't seen her in years. It turns out Carter told the driver to come here. He'd figured out the woman in the restaurant was Edward's setup, meant to make him miss his wife and go home. Carter just wanted to return the favor by helping Edward reconcile with his daughter. But Edward flies into a rage, accusing Carter of meddling in his business. Edward has played the role of the tough guy his whole life. He can't stand the thought of anyone pitying him. He tears up the bucket list, driving them away. A dejected Carter arrives home to a warm welcome. His wife, children, and grandchildren are all there. They avoid mentioning the illness, choosing instead to savor the moment together. Edward, meanwhile, returns to an empty mansion, with no one even to heat up a meal for him. He throws himself into work to hide his loneliness, until his assistant bursts in with terrible news. Carter's condition has worsened, and the cancer has spread to his brain. Seeing Carter with a shaved head, Edward is overcome with grief. All their quarrels vanish in an instant. Carter, ever the optimist, jokes that Edward's favorite civet coffee is actually made from cat poop.
You're shitting me.
Carter pulls out the bucket list, the one he glued back together after Edward tore it up, and crosses off, "Laugh until I cry." He hands it to Edward. "These are our heart's desires. Now you'll have to finish them for both of us." Maybe it's guilt, maybe it's gratitude. Edward finally puts his resistance aside. He gathers his courage and knocks on his daughter's door. Their meeting is far from the fight he feared. Instead, it's filled with peace. The rift of over a decade heals. When his granddaughter smiles at him, Edward feels a warmth and love he hasn't known in years. He crosses off the last item: kiss the most beautiful girl in the world. Not long after, Carter passes away from a failed surgery. At his funeral, Edward delivers a eulogy through tears. Though they'd only known each other a few months, they'd found the true meaning of life in one another. And in checking off that bucket list, their souls had redeemed each other. 2 months later, a man climbs to the top of the Himalayas. Edward's assistant places the urns containing both Edward and Carter's ashes here, the final item on their list. Just like the Egyptian legend, Carter once told, "They'll meet again in heaven."